Hey guys, so usually I would upload a how-to video on the current project that I'm working on, which is a no-slouching application, and you can check it out somewhere around here. But today I wanted to talk about something that I saw yesterday on Last Week Tonight Show with John Oliver, and that is that facial recognition performs really bad on faces other than white males, and you could get a vibe that the facial recognition software itself is kind of racist, and kind of isn't. For you who don't really know what Last Week Tonight Show is, it's just a really funny show about the news and current events in USA and globally. And yep, we just make a fun, nice spin on it and get more in detail about the events themselves. For the facial recognition software, well, I guess most of you know what it is, but just a quick recap. It's software which recognizes faces and then tries to identify those faces with actual people. So without further ado, we'll get into the video excerpt from the whole clip. If you want the full context, check out the full video. I'll leave the link down below. And yeah, let's get into it. So the clip I want to show you starts from 8 minutes and 26 seconds, and this is where the John Oliver guy gets in depth about the facial recognition problems recognizing faces other than white males. So yeah, let's just watch.
This technology raises troubling philosophical questions about personal freedom, and right now there are also some very immediate practical issues. Because even though it is currently being used, this technology is still very much a work in progress.
Well, that's totally true.
And its error rate is particularly high when it comes to matching faces in real time. In fact, in the UK, when human rights researchers watched police put one such system to the test, they found that only 8 out of 42 matches were verifiably correct.
Well, we would need to know what verifiably correct means, but yeah, I think the clip after this shows what the problem is, so let's just watch.
And that's even before we get into the fact that these systems can have some worrying blind spots, as one MIT researcher found out when testing out numerous algorithms, including Amazon's own recognition system.
At first glance, MIT researcher Joy Buolamwini says the overall accuracy rate was high, even though all companies better detected and identified men's faces than women's. But the error rate grew as she dug deeper.
Lighter male faces were the easiest to guess the gender on, and darker female faces were the hardest.
So yeah, that's the main issue. So the model itself, the facial recognition model, well, models in this case, do really good on some classes. So in this case, white males. Well, when you will see in the table, it's lighter skinned females as well. So if we just get back a few seconds. Yeah, so this is the main table I wanted to show you guys. So if you check this one out, so you can see that it does good on actually 3 classes when deciding the gender of a person. So lighter male, lighter female, and darker male all are acceptable accuracies, and darker female is just, well, it's much worse. So I'm really not the first person to talk about this. There's a bunch of guys in the data science community who talked about it, but I think the one person who explained this the best was Jeremy Howard from FastAI in one of his lectures. Of course, I'll leave a link down below. So when explaining this, mainly what we need to think about is how the facial recognition model itself is trained. And here we can see the distribution of data from for 2 major image datasets, so OpenImages and ImageNet. And as you can see here, the majority of images are from the US, and there's really not that much diversity from other places to have images in the dataset, and that actually leads to the explanation of the whole modal problem, if it's racist or not. So the thing here with the accuracies is, well, the model performs poorly on some classes just because, well, it didn't see enough data of that class. Let's just say you take a child, like a really young child, and try to train him to recognize what is a book, a journal, and a notebook. So all those three things look quite similar, especially for a really young child, because he or she doesn't really have any cultural knowledge, that much knowledge about the world itself and how things are different. So all those three things look pretty much the same to him or her. And if you just read bedtime stories for the child from books all the time, the majority of things from those categories that he sees are books. And if you just show them a journal once or twice, I don't know, maybe you have one at home and maybe you have seen one at a doctor's visit, and then a notebook, which is really quite rare in our day and time. In most cases, the child will say that both the journal and the notebook is a book, because most of his life, most of his training period, what he saw was books, and he's just more likely to say it's a book just because that's the only thing that he memorized, like what he trained for. So the same goes with the models. If you don't really have a good amount of examples for each class, and those examples are not distinct enough for the model to train different features of the category itself, so in this example, different genders of different skin tone for different people, then the model will just perform poorly, and then you'll say, well, the facial recognition is racist. Well, the model itself isn't. It just most likely didn't have enough diverse examples of each class that it needs to recognize. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, we can watch further on this.
Even though all companies better detect
Lighter male faces were the easiest to guess the gender on, and darker female faces were the hardest.
one system couldn't even detect if she had a face, and the others misidentified her gender. White guy, no problem.
Yeah, white guy, no problem, which, yes, is the unofficial motto of history. But it's not like what we needed right now was for computers to somehow find a way to exacerbate the problem. And it gets worse. In one test, Amazon's system even failed on the face of Oprah Winfrey. Someone so recognizable, her magazine only had to type the first letter of her name and your brain auto-completed the rest.
Now, regarding that, artificial intelligence models don't really take into account cultural information if you don't provide it to them. So in this case, Oprah's face for a model is just another face. It's not Oprah, it's not anything, it's just a face that it needs to recognize. And yeah, it won't know who famous people are. It will just say it's a face and I need to identify it.
Best. And that's not all. A federal study of more than 100 facial recognition algorithms found that Asian and African American people were up to 100 times more likely to be misidentified than white men. So that is...
So regarding that, that's the same issue with the whole training problem that I explained. And as for Asian men or women, well, we don't really see China complaining about their facial recognition. So yeah. It's not the same problem for any facial recognition algorithm out there.
Clearly concerning, and on top of all of this, some law enforcement agencies have been using these systems in ways they weren't exactly designed to be used.
In 2017, police were looking for this beer thief. The surveillance image wasn't clear enough for facial recognition software to identify him. So instead, police used a picture of a lookalike, which happened to be actor Woody Harrelson. That produced names of several possible suspects and led to an arrest.
Yeah, they used a photo of Woody Harrelson to catch a beer thief. And how dare you drag Woody Harrelson into this? This is the man that once got drunk at Wimbledon in this magnificent hat, made this facial expression in the stands, and in doing so, accidentally made tennis interesting for a day. He doesn't deserve prison for that. He deserves the Wimbledon trophy. And there have been
So yeah, I wanted to show you this just because this show can spin a meme from a really serious issue, and yeah, that's just why it's great.
multiple instances where investigators have had such confidence in a match, they've made disastrous mistakes.
Later on, the clips show how the poor performance of facial recognition can impact people's lives in a really bad way. And I totally agree with that point made there. But it's not the software itself. Like, facial recognition isn't deemed to be racist or anything. It's just the way that you train it and the amount of examples of faces of different categories, of different skin tones and different genders in this case. This is what matters, and this is what determines how good the algorithm itself, well, the model itself is. And apart from that, there's not really much else which impacts it to make decisions that it makes. As I said before, I love the show, so I'm not attacking the show in any way. I just felt that they could explain it a little bit better and get a bit more into why, but you know, it's a show. It should be interesting and not boring as my YouTube videos, so this is why I'm explaining this here right now. So if you like the video, leave a like, and if you found this video informative, don't forget to share it with your friends and consider subscribing. And I hope to see you soon with my other how-to videos and not explainers as this. Unless you really like it, then sure, I'll make more of those. Bye!